Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we are just a week or so, I guess it's been a little bit less than a week, since the release of the last mini set, the balance patch. And yes, Hearthstone has a giant problem. Not literally a giant problem, but there's giants and they're kind of a problem. And if you've been playing Hearthstone lately, especially standard, although probably wild as well, you have probably been seeing this every once in a while. Your opponent playing like 2 or 3 or maybe more giants on turns 3, 4, I think this one's 5. It's just a pretty ridiculous experience, and it is kind of dominating the meta. We're gonna go into it, what I think should probably get changed at some point, and also some positives about the meta, because I really don't think it's that bad in standard, at least. Anyways, we'll talk about all that. And if you enjoy the content on the channel, feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button down below. Give the video a like as we're on the road to 83,000 subscribers. So they have Baby Bear tweeting out first game of the day. I think that's enough Hearthstone for now. We got a reply here, which I think I used one in the thumbnail of like, this is turn 2, just double flame it, a horror, double treant, turn 4, triple giant and treants and a rook. Like, the board states are absolutely ridiculous, and it kind of led to me saying the year is 2024 and this card is in the best deck in standard and wild, which is absolutely outrageous. In wild, you've heard me talk about it enough. The Demon Seed, pretty good. Molten Giant fits in pretty well there with like Dark Lair and all of that. And funny enough, this card used to be 25 mana. Are we gonna go back to that point? It's doing that well that we're gonna put it back to 25 mana. I feel like you wouldn't have to kill the card like that, but we'll talk about it in a second. Anyways, looking at the front page of HS Replay, you will see that Paladin, Warlock, number 1 and 2 with Hunter, it's always sticking around. Saddle up, whatever. It's always sticking around. Plus, Reno Hunter's pretty good too. You'll know Warrior is number 4 and all of that. Again, front page, not the best statistic, but you can kind of see the general underlying. And again, with Wild, Warlock easily number 1. And if you look, this is just even at Legend. Very limited data, but you can see Demon Seed's like 60% or higher. It's only at like top 1,000 Legend, which I don't think there's much data here. It falls off because it's super polarizing there. It just, everybody's playing to beat the Demon Seed, and they could still only beat it like half the time. It's really gross. Again, hope something happens about it. But if we look at the meta in terms of standard at Legend, you're gonna notice a trend, and this is the giant problem we're having. Basically, the decks that are performing the best are Flood Paladin, Pain Warlock. There is Hand Buff Paladin in there, which isn't as relevant for this conversation, but Zarimi Priest. 3 decks that can spam absurd board states before any other deck can reasonably answer it. And it's leading to a lot of frustration, where it's just a lot of early boards you have no chance to react to. It's the whole agency thing we were talking about earlier. Not much agency when there's like 4 giants on turns 3 and 4. You can't really answer that unless you're like a priest with like Shattered Ruin, I guess. That's about it. And after that, it kind of just goes to like a lot of Highlander decks. Yes, Highlander Warrior is like one of the best decks still. 8 mana Bran, who would have thought? Most people. Highlander Paladin, Highlander Hunter, we got Warlock, we got Rogue, we got Druid, Death Knight, we got Demon Hunter, Mage, really close. What I will say about the meta is I'm personally not hating it. I'm playing a lot more Arena than Ladder lately, just because I find the Arena to be really fun these days. I really like the changes they've done to the Arena, so I'm playing it a lot. But when I play standard, I'm not having the worst time in the world. Wild I am, because it's either play Demon Seed or try and beat the Demon Seed. But in standard, outside of like those early high rolls from the Flood Paladins, from the Paid Warlocks, from the Zarimi Priests, I'm not having a bad time, right? Like every class, I was able to recommend a deck for every class in my deck recommendation video, and I stay to that. Like I feel like every class has something to do right now. Control is present, mid-range is present, aggro is present. It's just these decks to me that stand out as the problem. And they're basically, you know, due to the giants of the game. If we look at Pain Warlock, again, it's really about getting those Molten Giants. It has like the highest mulligan win rate in the deck. It's fueled now by mass production, which is arguably the best card in the deck. If you look at the stats, I'll put it over there. Mulligan win rate, mass production is almost as high as Molten Giants. I'm almost hoping that mass production maybe gets nerfed to 2 mana, and that would help Wild out. Like, I don't think the Demon Seed is nearly as problematic if Dark Lair has a 2 mana mass production to work with. So that's something to note. maybe Wild has a chance without banning the Demon Seed or reworking the Demon Seed or Dark Lair, whatever, right? I just want Wild to go, you know, be a little bit better, that's all. Regardless, you see that the Molten Giant, and the other common theme you're gonna see here is Ziliax with the whole ticking module, right? This card being able to come down for 0 mana in multiple decks is just continuing to be an issue. And it was originally 4 mana, this module. Just think about it. They've already nerfed that. So you're going to see that, yeah, Mold Giant cheating that out, Imprisoned Horror just creates these board states that are much too early. I've heard people calling for like, well, nerf Infernal because it helps with that, but the card's not really that great in the deck. It's okay. It's middle of the road, but you can easily get out your Imprisoned Horrors, your Molten Giants without it. It's not that big a deal. The Infernal is just a good part of the deck, but it's not great. It doesn't really impact it. It's really about those giants. And you look at Flood Paladin, the enablers of that, of course, Sea Giant, the other giant problem, Ziliax again with that ticking module, Pylon module coming down for 0 much too soon. And the main thing that fuels this one is Showdown. This card has been pretty much ridiculous since the day it came out, despite Trump at the time saying it was the worst card of the set. Gotta love it. But I don't think a lot of us saw it being busted. I thought it would see play, but yeah, getting 6 minions on the board for 2 mana basically gets this out for cheap or 0 really quickly. Same with Ziliax, and boom, you have that blowout turn, and you can couple it up with the Ziliax that has the Pylon module that lets you trade your 3/3s in and get an absurd board state. So again, that happens. It feels really bad. And Zarimi Priest is also an offender in this regard, where they can get those ridiculous openers with the Crimson Clergy, with their Funnel Cake, with their Pip the Potent, and then cheat out. 0 mana Thirsty Drifters, again, Ziliax with that ticking module. And another thing to note is like, you can Powered Synchronize, get another 0 mana one, Celestial Projectionist, which also appears in Pain Warlock, get another 0 mana one. And I don't think nerfing a card like Celestial Projectionist is probably the way about going about it with all these decks sharing such a similar play pattern, because this card's cool on its own. It's just when it gets to 0 mana cards, it becomes stupid. And that's the problem. We have too many of these 0 mana cards. Thirsty Drifter, Ziliax, Sea Giant, Molten Giant. Those are the cards that I'm looking at that I feel like it's really hard right now if they're going to look at these strategies to nerf around it, where I feel like you got to nerf a Ziliax, you got to nerf these type of cards because these play patterns suck. They talked about bringing agency, more agency to the game, and I feel like it's something they really need to do with these 3 decks. And they are like the best 3 decks, or 3 of the best 4 decks in the format. And although those situations, like, you know, we were looking at earlier, they're high rolls. They don't happen every game. It just shouldn't be able to happen basically any game, right? Like, it just feels like it's something that shouldn't be really popping up as a real possibility. So I would love to see, like, I guess a suggestion, but won't do nerf predictions because I feel like it's too soon. I don't think we're getting nerfs this week, but you never know. I would feel like maybe make Molten Giant like 22 mana, bump it up a little bit, not 25 like back in the day, but like 22 mana, something like that. So it comes down a little bit later. You got to risk a little bit more life. Could make Showdown 3 mana. I feel like that could be pretty safe, right? Like, it's 3 3/3s for each opponent. Why is it not 3 mana? That's always one that's bugged me. Or I guess you could bump Sea Giant up a bit. Thirsty Drifter, another card, I feel like it could easily go to 7 or 8. That card comes out for like 0 mana so easily. And then, yeah, lastly, Ziliax. For me, Ziliax, I feel like you could almost reduce it by a mana and have it only factor your side. I feel like that could be a change you could do, or just bump it up by a couple more mana, because right now these cards are just coming down a little too soon for 0 mana. I feel like that would be helpful, but overall, I think the standard meta is not too shabby. Again, every class realistically has something they can do. And a lot of these decks I actually enjoy. I really like the Highlander stuff. I actually like Shopper DH. You guys know that I love me some Death Fight. So there's plenty out there. I just think that for the health of the game, it would be a good idea to dial back some of these really early blowout turns, and hopefully it doesn't just lead to like, okay, we're back to Highlander Warrior and maybe rework Bran or something. I don't know, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below if this is something you feel like should change, or is it just fine and leave things as they are? Because again, I don't think this is the worst meta we've had recently. At least it's not a one class one like we saw for like the last like 3 months, which was pretty brutal. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.